Hello everyone, welcome back to Tesla Plays MaGMML 3. Now, I kind of forgot to do the judge commentary for this a ways back. I've actually gone a little ways into Tier 2 already. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. What is it? Do you want to do or enter? Sure. Chip would applying of coordinates. Error sending to best guess. Oh. Okay, cool. Works for me. Ah. Damn it. Didn't mean to talk to you. I'm trying to climb up the ladder. Because I believe this is where we start off, yeah. Because last time we ended on a piece of cake, but with aesthetics. So let's actually get the judge commentary done. In the playlist, this will show up right here. Like right after I finish these stages, so you won't even notice it, but man, I can't believe I screwed that up. I can't believe I just forgot to do it. Ugh. My memory is bad. The game will exist though. 2.6, 0.4, 2.0 have 5 difficulty, I mean. 6.6 in design, 4.4 in fun, 2.0 in creativity, 5.4 in aesthetics, 8 in functionality. Mick, 22 of 100. Not gonna lie, this was kind of pointless. A lot of nothing happened. Not much to comment on. But the only gameplay worth bringing up at all is the double dev kit boss. Which is bad, because they tend to overlap like crazy, be a pain to dodge. The unnecessarily big rooms, which is still bad, because there's nothing to do except get lost for no reason. Beyond that, only real comments are that the visuals are extremely bland. There's a broken slope, and the music is nice. Well, it's indeed short. Shinryu, 50 of 100. Yep, it sure does. No seriousness though, there's not much going on with this level. Even layouts are pretty bare bones, featuring a lot of wide open space that makes most of the enemies a non-issue. A bit more so when coupled with higher jumps granted by water physics. This is true for the Mecha Dragon fight, even 4 whole screens to deal with them. Beyond those issues, the only other noteworthy thing here is the double boss fight. Which you gotta set them up so their movements and attacks play off or complement each other in some way. Having to bust it at once is typically more of a pain than anything. Just sticking Bubbleman and Sockman in a room together, regardless of how large it is, doesn't really work out. Patchy, 37 of 100. The loud music that exists! As well as inconsistent volume. Audio mixing, people. Yeah. Well, this level certainly lives up to its name. There's few screens of enemies. The thing going on is the cave story aesthetics. As far as crossover stages go, this is unfortunately quite barren. Yeah, it's always sad when you see cave story like graphics, but they don't do anything with it. There was a similar stage in MaGMML 2. I'm like, come on. Like, I love me some cave story. Do something cool with it. Seems the collisions of the slopes are misaligned. Often Mega Man cannot traverse through a set of them without getting stuck in the ground. Another issue is that sometimes it's difficult to tell if you're off-water or submerged. Some water tiles look very similar to empty tiles at first glance. Also doesn't help that screen transitions would mask the whole splash effect when normally going off-water. He'd be really bad at fighting Bubble Man on ground. The fight with him and Sonic Man felt quite unfair with the lava tiles on the ground. Limiting mobility. Bubbleman's buster shots are very hard to dodge without the water physics. Meanwhile, Sonic Man will punish you if you don't stay close to the ground near him at all times. The Mecha Dragon, on the other hand, is completely non-threatening, with so much ground to stand on in its arena, trivializing the fight. I'm okay with that. Flashman A5, 35 out of 100. What a title. The confidence you have in your level is exceptional. Ironically, this really feels like a cave after the first couple of screens. It does feel like some DOS games I played. Minimalistic, but not altogether unappealing graphics. Large free-scrolling areas with no sense of challenge progression. And enemies haphazardly introduced and then forgotten forever. Yep, that's DOS for you. I grew up playing a few of them, and I had some fun with them, but it is true that they are very bland when you get right down to it, due to the limitations of a lot of those early PC games. It kind of just came with the territory, really. No bards will sing of this level's clunky layout or lackluster architecture, not that anyone would be able to hear them over the music, mind you. While aside, the relaxed audio is a good fit for the level. One of the only reasons I enjoyed myself at all. At the very least, the level needs more background detail. Teleporter statue is a good start, flawless use of collision objects, putting water collision over the top solid platforms. Some sense of focus beyond random water enemies sometimes, I guess. Side note, we could use a thematically unrelated Flashman NPC in a contest, where one of the judges is named Flashman. Give him dialogue I might actually say. Zolvoroto, indeed. Hey, I thought it was cute. Water physics inexplicably disappear where they're needed most. With low gravity, Sonic Bubble could have been a genuinely fun fight, instead of the part where you give up on a no-damage run. Good call on the weapon refill at the gate, though. Would have loved to battle Mecha Dragon in a submerged area with larger hops between fewer platforms. Even moving the dragon to the center of the arena would be an improvement. All that room to work with, and the dragon hangs out so far off screen that you're basically ticking its feet with whatever weapon will reach. Yes, this level certainly does exist. It's a better selling point than it doesn't not exist. A sparked with 3 of 100. If you aren't going to put any effort in, do you also dislike this? Neither am I! Yeah. I like the cave story music and a little bit of the graphics, but come on, do more with it, people. It's such a good game, and you could really do some interesting things by combining it with Mega Man, you know? Alright, next up, Cycle Facility. Ugh. By Shark of the Shark. 1.0 F5 difficulty, 5.6 design, 5.8 fun, 2.8 creativity, 5.2 aesthetics, 7.2 in functionality. Mech, 17 of 100. Oi, for once, I have absolutely no idea what to say about this. To be blunt, it's really, really boring. Bunch of enemies in really simple locations, with the odd gimmick here and there, makes things slightly more than basic. Some unusual enemy choices, such as Shield Guard and Touchstone Unlimited. But for the most part, this is really just there. Well, there's one aspect to complain about. Even what's the purpose behind that second element? It really isn't a level that warrants a second visit. To do so again just to find a random, basically unmarked ladder was vexing. That part of the stage is surely memorable, though. For the wrong reasons. Blah! Shinryu, 13 of 100. Comic, what? Well, that was at least something. I don't get the joke. In all honesty, there's not much to talk about here. At least when it comes to enemy placement, level layout, during one particular moment. Wait, I noticed that the portrait is different. Huh. Yeah, the portrait's different. What the heck? Let's talk about here. When it comes to enemy placement, level layout, borrowing one particular moment. Another short stage with basic enemy configurations along a mostly linear path. There are a couple of notable parts along the way, however, such as the first token. While I appreciate that an intentional death is required just to get it, it also begs the question as to why there's just a random patch of invisible floor over a spike pit. This isn't the only spot with terrain problems, however. 2 spots before the boss doors we can stand on thin air, along with the midway checkpoint respawning you inside the floor. Whoops. And then there's the second token energy element. Those of you that don't like spoilers and want to try to find them on your own, feel free to look away from the next block of text of this review. I guarantee, however, you're not going to find them unless 1, you already know what they are, or 2, you have the map and or radar upgrades unlocked. Just why? Why exactly are these hidden in such an obscure way? Really no indication there's a ladder beneath the metal baton. Unless maybe, as you're really stretching it, the ladder is supposed to be lined up with the tube that comes out of said mini-boss? Just taking a wild guess here. If that were the case, however, it would still be an incredibly obtuse hint. Yeah, too much for me. Patchy, 3500. Le facility, psycho facility, psych. Uh-huh. I think I get it. Holosthetics keep switching around per room. Is that the psycho part of this yield facility? This level is a whole mismatch of random gimmicks, enemies, and misaligned collisions. Feeling like the stage is just kind of thrown out there without much care or thought put into it. You need even more evidence of how unpolished this stage is. The respawn point is embedded into the ground. Truly the level of all time. Now how about we top all this off with a funny secret ladder into the last token element, along with the funny memery imagery. Next. Yeah, not a fan of this stage either. Patchy. Touchman 85. 33 of 100. Level names are very important to me. They upset player expectations. They hint at the amount of care and effort expended by the designer. In fact, 2 whole points of my design score are devoted to how well the name matches the level. Cycle implies wheeled vehicles, or perhaps something cyclical such as seasons. Facility is just location with a specific function. I originally picked this level as a place of inscrutable purpose that cycles through unrelated tile sets and enemies. Recycling. The same uninspired configurations ad nauseam. But as soon as I wrote that sentence, it occurred to me that maybe this is a recycling facility. MaGMML 3 contestants, we need to have a talk about naming recycling-themed levels. So let's assume there's actually a theme here. I see junkyard tiles, bigly industrial tiles, which don't match at all. Junk spewing enemies. Enemies that dispense discarded balls of metals. Yes, recycling facility. But no bubbles and a goo golem figure into it. Me neither. Or why we detour for a single screen in some other level involving lasers. I'll leave those questions to the philosophers. The numerous design flaws are textbook examples of what happens when someone's still learning how to use the dev kit, doesn't get other people to playtest their level. Some highlights include egregious problems with collisions, section, and checkpoint objects. A completely skippable mini-boss. Seriously? That creates a deadly problem if completely skipped. In an unsightly secret room, delusions of being an acceptable place to stash half the level's key collectibles. So the level is playable and not overwhelming or difficult. The music is good, background graphics, when they decide to show up, as in character. Part of me wonders whether this was submitted merely to see how the judges will react, but I'm hopeful this was an honest attempt gone awry. And last but not least, A-Spark, 35 of 100. This was like several levels thrown into a blender and an incredibly unfocused level appeared from it. There was nothing but enemy challenges, as each gimmick only appeared once, rarely, appropriate, or added anything. This is the quick man beams or water spouts. The constantly changing tile set was jarring, even if this was the point of the level. There needs to be some cohesion through a level. Rarely ever saw the same enemy more than once. I certainly didn't find the level way more difficult as it went on. In order for a constantly changing environment like this to work, there needs to be something that stays the same throughout to anchor the player. Without it, the entire stage feels like a mess. Did there need to be a second exit? A token would have been, yeah, I certainly would have taken a token, that's for sure. More tokens, the better, especially in this game. Yeah, you know how much I hated this stage, alright. The level equivalent of an old man rambling at you. Okay, 2.4 out of 5 difficulty, 7 in design, 5.4 in fun, 3.8 in creativity, 4.2 in aesthetics, 8.4 in functionality. Mick, 19 of 100. I don't remember any old man rambles coming from ominous theme music. Same with the songs for ice cream parlors in the jungle. I also don't remember any actual difference between orange and blue doors. Both of them lead to level progress, considering there's multiple energy elements. Kinda sideswiped the concept there. Most of what I do remember is a poorly built level. Machine gun Joes jump off screen a lot, and Walking Bomb isn't nearly as prominent as the completely skippable ramble suggests. There's plenty of bees, however. Entirely too many bees. Not the bees! No, not the bees! What even was that nonsense anyway? I'm going to assume it was meant to be largely a Wicker Man reference. That's usually what it means when they do bee jokes. Either that or a bees, my god, a Batman joke. Top off with a dull attempt at a joke boss, and Hornet Man struggling to function in duplicate. We've got a level I rather didn't enjoy. Yeah, that double Hornet Man was just hell, I swear. Especially since his weakness sucks. There are two pieces that deserve credit at least. The fact that damage spikes versus kill spikes are actually explained and telegraphed. The token challenges are mildly interesting. Doesn't make up for the rest of the level, but they warrant recognition nonetheless. Shinryu, 19 of 100. Comic. What? No, seriously, what was that? You didn't really talk about this, because there's almost nothing here worth bringing up that is immediately obvious. Just look at the level itself. The Bullhorn and fight is the only thing I can really think of that warrants any kind of mention. Mostly because of how frustrating it is unless you abuse Tornado Blow. What? But I tried Tornado Blow, it didn't exactly help much. Unless you just use it to get rid of the bees and then switch to Ice Wall. That would get annoying quick though. Other than that, I'm not even sure what else to say here. Even that context at the end doesn't help explain this level much. If anything, it only raises more questions. Patchy, 41 of 100. Angry Grandpa. Exactly. Well, that was a stage, I guess. The old man joke boss was pretty funny, but the rest of the level, it's just there. Very bare bones level with nothing really much standing out in terms of design. Even the Joe at the beginning just jumps off screen if you wait long enough. Doesn't want to get involved here. A joke boss fight alone is not going to be enough to get the level a high score, pal. I thought it was funny at least. The titling could use some work too. Never mind the fact Nepal Man's title set is kind of overused. Wait, why are there hidden paths inside the walls now? When it's not about the old man, the other half of the level devolves into bees funny! Right, guys? The bee jokes have gone so out of control that there are now 2 Hornet Men. It's not a good prize. Just say the fight is pretty unreasonable and unfun. Yeah, really. What the heck? Fashman, A5, 37 of 100. Back in my day, we made levels that made sense. Context? He players context right away, left hints everywhere. Anyone who hid their contacts in a secret room. Sorry about that. Anyway, or left hints everywhere. Anyone who hid their contacts in a secret room, their level was fed to the sharks. You better believe we had sharks, big sharks, over the place. And sock drawers everywhere. Just like the power-ups here, because these days think E-tanks grow on trees. They don't. Only little health refills do. I get the reference. Which reminds me, if you're gonna use flower and spike tiles, make sure they match the background. You can't create a bunch of collision objects and call it a level. Levels should have a deliberate sense of style. Put down the architecture and a sensible layout and polished text. Before I was a freelance garlic salesman, I was a lumber photographer, so a thing or two about aesthetics. You can't throw music tracks around a willy-nilly and call it a soundtrack. When I was your age, we only had 1 Hornet Man. That was already more than some of us could handle. Like, they made to walk 20 screens uphill to the only boss chamber in the whole level. The There were no secret passages dropping us off who knows where. We most never heard from Dr. Light unless we were stuck in an asteroid, hurling towards the sun. It was mostly for flavor. We learned everything the hard way, through good level design. Did I tell you about the time I found bees in my tadpole eggs? Or the time someone left cow traps on the stairs? Those are some pretty good stories. Well, I did rest my eyes for a bit. Be here to give me some ice cream, would ya? I don't mind if it's nutty. It has to be layered right so it doesn't look like it's entirely nuts. I think Flashman was putting more effort into that than the actual level did. And that's pretty awesome, gonna be honest. Okay. E-Spark, 2 out of 100, another comment. So most time in the stage is spent reading signs. They say comedy is subjective, but the stage amounts to B's. Expect a chuckle. People will just skip your pages and pages of funny dialogue. Not a word. Okay, that's a reference to how everyone was skipping A-Spark stuff in MaGMML 2, I guess. And him being angry about it. To be fair, I'd be pissed too. Because even though it wasn't an actual review, those comics still got the point across. And at least it was short and sweet about it. I would take comics over a lot of text, just saying. If you're willing to go that far. What's this? A judge doesn't find comedy about bees to make a good level? My chest cavity full of bees ought to put a stop to that! No, it won't. I think more bees doesn't simply make it funny. Oh, I agree. Bees are not funny. So that's why I brought hornets! Exactly. So see, that's how to make the situation better. Hornets instead of bees. I'm glad we have an understanding. Okay, but seriously, this level is pretty decent. Like, I know it's mostly there for the comedy and the memes, but I'm into that. Like, you know, I like the meme stuff. I like dumb jokes. I like puns. So, you know, I got humor out of this. But that's more of a personal thing. Not a lot of people would probably care. Like, you know... Personally speaking, though, I got some fun out of it. Certainly more fun than some other stages I've played, that's for sure. By the way, what's this? Remember this? It's Dr. Willie's old red UFO, back when we first fought. Rusted shut. Looks like it's inoperable. Oh well, blue is always a better color for it. Indeed, my favorite color is blue. Last stage. Ultimate level. It got 1.4 F5 difficulty, 5.8 in design, 6.8 in fun, 3.0 in creativity, 5.8 in aesthetics, and 9.0 in functionality. Mick, 27 of 100. So if it's called Ultimate, doesn't seem to be shouting about Maria very much. I say two joke. Ultimate life form, alright. As for what it does do, well, not a lot actually. Well yes, this level has a lot of different pieces. The majority of the actual design is basic jumps and flat surfaces. Takes any potential variety and curves it, with some vast majority feeling samey, even though there's a new toy in every room. Variety is a good thing to have. There's a variety of scenarios that create interesting design, not a grab bag of pieces with the same window dressing. That being said, there are some specific moments I need to cover. First is an unnecessary amount of pixel-perfect jumps in the stage. Not exactly difficult, since you could just use utilities, but the excess makes this a bit tedious. Yeah. Secondly, while the idea of carrying a key through the level is a neat one, I sure appreciate how easily the checkpoints can screw over the player. Granted, if that didn't happen, there would be no difficulty in getting the level's token. But having to restart everything for one little mistake often leaves a bitter taste. Yeah, a couple stages in MaGMML 2 were bad about that. I'd have much preferred an actual challenge to fake difficulty. So as the first level, this really isn't bad. They're on the boring side, which really hampers my ability to talk about it. And a touch too many tedious parts, but there's a foundation here. Piece of advice, variety of scenarios with a small handful of gimmicks, usually more effective for level design. Quality over quantity. And don't be afraid to experiment with different placements. Oh, the custom graphics are pretty. Regularly appearing black backgrounds got dull fast, but otherwise they look nice. I don't even really remember this level much. Like, at all. Like, I just don't. I'd have to look back at the footage and see what it was like, because my mind is blanking on this one. Shinryu, 21F100. I don't want to turn this review into a full-on lecture, assuming the text box at the beginning isn't a joke or some elaborate trollish ploy. So I'd like to give you some advice. Comes level design, a number of things you need to keep in mind. One of them includes proper introduction to new gimmicks and enemies so they don't blindside the player. This stage goes against that basic design principle in a number of ways. I'm not saying your enemy and gimmick setups need to be hand-holding levels of easy, but they should at least let the player get proper feel for what they're going to be put up against. Put them in a situation like the start of the stage, where two different dropping platforms are introduced over instant death, is a bit much for an introduction. Having two new enemy types waiting for you on the other side of those platforms isn't doing any favors. The stage also suffers heavily from the one-and-done problem, where a gimmick or enemy will appear, never show up for the rest of the stage. A good chunk of the level is like this, for that matter. Funnily enough, despite the stage being so frantic with its constant use of different enemies and gimmicks, it's relatively easy. The only points where things become somewhat tricky are during certain 4-tile-wide jumps, few of which I don't think are possible without utilities. And then there's the fight against Gwent. I partially remember that. Well, I'm all for changing up things with vanilla and engine bosses. People wonder what the point was of adding gravity flippers to Gwent's fight. It only seems to serve to make him easier than he already was. At least that's what I'm getting at it anyways. Overall, this definitely isn't the worst level I've ever played, very far from it in fact. But it's still not particularly good either. Practice makes perfect though, and I know you can improve immensely over this. Patchy, 40 of 100. Ultimate level, MaGMML 2! Was there a stage called that? It's okay, for first ever level, you can definitely see some beginning designer's mistakes. Such as... not introducing your gimmicks first to safe environment. Several of the platforms first appear over Bottomless Pit, especially rough with the placement of Picado 24. Mandatory 4-tile jumps require the player to do them almost pixel perfect. All gimmicks and enemies come and go, never to be used again for the rest of the stage. Minor complaint, but no walls for the screens end makes it somewhat annoying to secret hunt. The powered-up switch setup is also quite precise without using weapons. Oh, that's what it's from. Okay. I do remember that. The gravity flippers make the Quint fight a little more interesting than normal, but said gimmick was never introduced in the stage itself. It would be confusing for players who have not seen this gimmick prior. Granted, it's a dev kit asset, but the point still stands that proper gimmick handling is important. Jeez. Flashman 85, 24 of 100. I could almost believe this is a legitimate attempt at a real level. What with the reasonably kind checkpoint placement. Thoroughly normal length, good sounding music, the graphics vaguely look like something... They vaguely look like something, I guess. But then there's an ambush by Picado 24 and Sniper Joe, and then his near sign secretly foreshadowing a cheap death, and a halfway interesting fight with a boss who's notorious for not being taken seriously. Which collectively make it hard to believe that anything named Ultimate Level ever had any intention of being good. This level is neither truly ultimate nor ironically unultimate. A series of unrelated, uninspired challenges take up space in a visually and architecturally barren location. Smells like a half-butted attempt at a troll level. If you're going to troll us, do it right. Subvert expectations, mess with our heads. Pile on the pain until it's preposterous. But demonstrate just enough restraint to keep from getting excluded. This level demonstrates so much restraint that it almost doesn't have an identity. Aside from the aforementioned ambush sign and boss, which actually kind of worked to an extent, you have had a promising career as a troll if you really wanted to. Virtually no risks are taken. Feels like an early draft. This designer was still trying out different ideas and getting a handle on how collision objects work. Any difficulty stems from fleeting setbacks and mild inconveniences. Once you know what the beginner traps are, the hardest part about getting the token is having the patience to play this level a second time. A good level should be fun to play. A good troll level should be fun to watch other people play. This is ultimately a level. I mean a spark, 32 of 100. Unfortunately, there's very little substance to this level. There are a huge number of enemies and gimmicks used exactly once and never seen again. It is very hard to show any kind of progression or focus in a level of unique assets. Because of this fundamental flaw, there isn't a lot more talk about the level. There are a couple of positives. The graphics were pretty well taught and put together, though lacking detail in the background. The music was awesome. Funny enough, the Quint fight was pretty enjoyable because of how silly it ended up being. Checkpoints were also pretty well placed, though one does bypass a puzzle, so shrug. There are a few pixel-perfect, or even impossible buster-only sections, level, which are pretty obnoxious and break the little flow the level has. The token requiring no death is not a particularly fun concept, especially when you could be locked out via a checkpoint later on. It is obvious this is a first attempt, but I'd recommend looking at other levels and limiting what assets you use in future. Also try to get other members of the community to have a look at your level, resubmit it, and take advice from them. Yeah, I don't remember the level that much, and from what I can tell, it's for the best. So, yeah, I can't really talk about the boss, since the boss didn't never get special commentary or anything like that. Kind of a shame that, but well, what can you do? I will say for Tier 1, I think it's mostly harmless, though there were a few stinkers in the mix, obviously. The first stage being the worst, I think. Definitely. A part of me is still curious and trying it out much later in the game, when I have a lot of stuff through the tokens, but that's all we're going to be doing for now. I did learn about one secret to this game, but I'll get into it much later. It's about a third mechanic that gets unlocked once we beat Tier 3, the boss from it, and that'll be a while, but I'll have a lot to talk about though, trust me. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, I will talk to you later. See ya.